can't think of a better time to be in front of you, not just given what's going on in the market across the board, and obviously a rising tide raises all boats, but we're staring down some of the biggest catalysts that we've ever had as a company in the very, very near future here. And, I think that's just one of the reasons why we'll continue to, on our path forward. Speaking of forward, we're going to hop in the DeLorean here, and I'm going to take you not too far forward. We're looking just to the end of the month here as when we're planning to debut our maiden resource estimate. As you can see on the stock chart here, it's been a wild few years for us. 2 years ago this month, we picked up what's become our flagship project. It also coincided with when the world started shutting down due to COVID. Our stock price at that time, we got sold down to 7 cents this day 2 years ago. We were about $6 million market cap. About 9 weeks later, 10 weeks later, we hit $1.60, added $100 million to our market cap overnight. And the rest is history. It's been a Cinderella story, and with our maiden resource coming out just now, the clock's nowhere near midnight at this point. This is just the beginning. It's very exciting for us. We closed today at $1.16, somewhere around $190 million market cap. So when we hit in July, it was a wild time. So gold was at its all-time high. Silver was at $30, and since then the GDXJ has gone straight down, off. It was off 26% just last year. Our market cap since then has obviously gone 30x, our share price 16x, and we've got the makings of probably one of the most sought after silver projects globally right now. It's sought after as evidenced by First Majestic getting involved in a couple financings last year. Eric Sprott just recently, this time last week, wrote a $5 million check. That's significant, one, because our resource is coming out at the end of the month. It was an Eric-only deal, and it was the only deal that he'd be the only one that would want to have done that deal because it was a 4-month hold. I halted the stock at 89 cents. We did the deal at 88 cents, so effectively no discount to market, 4-month hold, no warrants, no nothing. It's about as bullish of a setup as you can get, knowing that probably the biggest piece of news we've had since we hit on our first drill hole, hole number 1, is coming down the pipe any day now. So what are we talking about? We're bringing new life to what's known as the Queen of the Silver Camps. It's the second largest silver district in all of Nevada. And this time 100 years ago, this would have been one of the most significant precious metals districts in the US. It's not just silver, it's silver and gold at 100-to-1 ratio. In about 30 good years, the district produced 174 million ounces of silver and 1.86 million ounces of gold. But the most exciting thing about that is it was only from 7.5 million tons. High-grade bonanza stuff. Now, this district didn't peter out naturally. It's second to only the Comstock lode in Nevada in terms of silver production, but the Comstock petered out after about 20 years. Tonopah didn't peter out. Tonopah became dormant because precious metals prices tanked in the mid-1920s. They went from about $1 an ounce silver down to about 25 cents an ounce by the 1930s, and it sent everything in the district belly up. It's Blackrock and Suma Silver on the other side of the district, which I guess there's a saying, there's nothing like an idea whose time have come. We both started drilling it about 90 years after the last activity happened, and we've both been putting some of the best intercepts out in the industry ever since. Some things, one of the reasons what makes us special, I mean, there's lots of companies putting out good news, but we're on private land in Nevada. We're literally halfway between Las Vegas and Reno, and we're walking distance to the town of Tonopah. The Walker Lane district hasn't been this active since the Comstock lode in the 1860s. It has never been hotter than it is right now. After the Tonopah was discovered in 1900, the Goldfields was discovered and the Bullfrog district was discovered. That's one town over and 2 towns over. Both of those towns have just been consolidated by major and mid-tier mining companies. Anglo Gold just got into they consolidated Bullfrog, spent $600 million buying Corvus. Centerra just last week announced a $200 million US acquisition from Waterton of Goldfields, one town over. We're not, we've got a lot of silver, but we got a lot of gold too. And we think what we have is very, very unique within the space. Right now, geopolitics have never, jurisdictional risk has never been more on investors' mind. And obviously what's going on in Russia, they're one of the largest silver producers globally. But even things in Chile right now, they're using the N-word, nationalization. You've got Mexico, Peru. They're doing everything they can to chase out investment, and those are the number one and number two silver producers globally. I speak with mid-tier and major mining companies all the time, and I can tell you that they've all lost their mandate to do M&A deals in South and Central America. Once you're outside of those places and you're looking for high-grade silver and gold at a 100-to-1 ratio, there's only a few games in town, and I think we're going all-out sprint, trying to add as much value as we possibly can before we get taken out. The story of Tonopah is very easy to tell. That's the bar chart. That's the production right there. It was discovered in 1900. Straight hockey stick chart up until around World War I. Obviously fell off for reasons. But the nail in the coffin was in 1923 when metals prices tanked, when the government stopped buying them for fixed prices. We're the first group to go back in since 1930 on the many historic mines on our property. This is what the district looked like in 1912. It's an east-west vein corridor. The discoveries were made on the east side of town, big outcropping veins at surface. They mined them right from surface and they followed them down westward. So all that production in the early years is on the east side, and then it moved west. Lots of consolidation happened in the late 1910s and 20s, and the west side of the district got gobbled up by a big company called the Tonopah Extension Mining Company. That's the company that went dormant in 1930, went into receivership when metals prices tanked. And that's the claim map, which represents the purple unit there on the satellite photo there, is the one that's been held ever since. We consolidated this in February of 2020, and our first drill hole was one of the best drill holes in Nevada of that year. We hit 30 meters of a kilogram per ton silver equivalent. That's the $100 million drill hole. The story of our property is the story of the workings. It's really easy to tell. Effectively, what you can see is a lot of activity happened on the northeastern portion of our district. That's the big Victor vein. They mined that down to 1,880 feet. There's 4 different levels, so that's all the squiggles you see there. They encountered water where their vein was 24 meters thick. Their geologists, their engineers said it's got to keep going. They took out a whole bunch of debt to fund the development. By the time they installed these water pumps and heavy-duty diesel generators, metals prices tanked and the company went belly up. While they were waiting for those water pumps to come in, they did what they did back in the old days, and they didn't do any drilling. They just drifted across, hoping to come across some other veins. And you'll see on the center of your screen there, just one level. They drifted across to the 1540 level, and they hit a number of veins. It's this area that they were preparing to mine when they went bankrupt. They did development. They stamped out a whole bunch of mineralization, what they called very good grade ore, and they never pulled it out of the ground. They went belly up before they could actually extract it. It's this area that's forming the basis of our maiden resource estimate. What all the initial drill holes were proof of concept drilling. It sounded too good to be true at the time, so we set out to see if they really did, stop mining where they said they did. We've now hit kilometers and kilometers and kilometers of mineralization. If you lay all the veins end to end, we've done 115,000 meters of drilling, easily one of the most active silver exploration projects globally around the world, and we've now hit 10 veins, the smallest of which is 425 meters in strike. Largest is 1.5 kilometers. Most of them are all open. The only ones that aren't are the ones that cross over into Suma's side, where they've now got 300 meters along the same vein corridor as we do. Now, it gets better. That yellow polygon you see there is our resource area. It's about an 800 meter by 800 meter area. That's what we're going to be putting out at the end of the month. But we've decided to do some pretty big step outs because we want to, we're not just trying to backstop our valuation with ounces in the ground. We still have no idea how big this thing is. So we've taken some big swings. We already know beyond the resource, we've established another 400 meters or so of strike to the east and west. So we already know that footprint of mineralization is at least 50% bigger than what will be tabled in the resource. But we're doing something that our chairman and head of exploration, Bill Howell, calls the Kennecott Hokey Pokey. What that means is we took some Hail Mary step-out drill holes, and you'll see they go all the way to the northwestern property boundary, over 2 kilometers beyond the resource. The resource will make it very easy for anyone to look at the story and realize that, this, 800 meters of strike amounted to these tons at this grade, these ounces. Well, you can just bring the ruler out. If we hit on these step outs, that's about 3 times the mineralization overnight. And we'll have those step outs back probably the week either before or after we get the resource tabled into market. We think this will be one of the highest grade maiden resources that the industry's seen. And as I said, what we have here is private land in Nevada. We're drilling on both sides of a highway and we're walking distance to town. So it's an exciting story, but it's still early days yet. Come a long way in 2 years. Frankly, I'd be shocked if we're around 2 years from now. But right now we're just putting one foot in front of the other, trying to add as much value as we can, as quickly as we can. And with that, I think that's my time. Thank you very much.